All right, so let's now continue to comp our little car. So now is the part I actually like the most of the comp, because we're gonna actually try to see how we can really build up the integration in different techniques, and many of them are kind of cheap. Some of them are a bit more delicate technically, but it's a part I usually enjoy because it actually asks us to really go into detail and try to see our shot starting to work. So one of the first thing I'm going to do here is I showed you how to work with the PLOs, meaning the light outputs of your image, and work with adding a few elements. There are a few things still we can do, but for now I would like to just point out that at some point I usually end up adding kind of a general grade at the end of all the AOV work after my CGI. This basically allows me to make overall adjustments to the image and modify, like do big and broad changes about the brightness, saturation, contrast, or hue of my CGI. You don't always need it, but again, it's something that I like doing. It gives us a kind of an extra layer of control. So for example, I'm feeling like the car overall is a bit too saturated, not by much, but just a tiny bit. So you can modify good values. You could obviously go way too far, like 0.5, but here we are losing all the reflections from the sky. So we want to remain in values which are a bit reasonable. We still have colors, we just don't want it to be too vibrant. Save for contrast. So the car right now is at the stage where the black levels might be correct, but the car itself still looks fairly dark. And sometimes it's useful to take a look at how we can make it pop. And as you see, when I reduce the contrast here, naturally, because my car is so dark, it tends to lift all the blacks and lift all the values. So what interests me in this case is that my car by default is a bit too contrasted. And more importantly, we want to be able to see it. We want the car to pop a bit in the frame. We want to strike this balance where the car is integrated or feels integrated, but at least also pops in the screen so we see it. Because sometimes our job is more about telling a story. Actually, it's all the time more about telling a story than pure technical work. So here I'm lifting a bit the car. Now maybe I'm thinking that the range of the car is a bit too low still. Actually, the spec is not too bad, but I have the feeling that these midtones, for example, could be a bit just a touch higher. So again, broad strokes. I'm going to increase a bit the gain. So let's not have the tablet gain too much space. So we can stay relatively subtle, and maybe I can start going into individual values. We still want to have let's see, actually I like it when it's a bit less blue, and let's see, right. So sometimes it's also a matter of stumbling a bit in the dark and seeing what feels right or what doesn't feel right. Maybe here it's a bit too red, so let's reduce that. Okay, after that, as you see, the one thing that still is very shocking is that in terms of sharpness, this car is still very sharp, and that might be okay in some cases again, but here the shot is moving. We have vibrations from the camera car, so we can afford to break it up a bit. So for that, I will just apply a slight blur, and I will apply it only to RGBA, because at this stage I don't want to blur the other channels. They are mostly useless. I will probably actually create a remove check, and at this stage I can already keep only the RGBA. This allows you to save a bit of memory and would probably make your life a bit easier. So let's try to get a feeling of my sharpness levels. So of course, most of the elements in the frame are already blurred by the motion blur. So you've got to, again, use your better judgment. So let's see. Okay, the value of 2, for example, is too strong. I think that softens the car too much. We lose too much detail. Let's say 1. Okay, 1 is not too bad actually. But I have a personal rule. Whenever I have a node, never put 1 as a value. I always feel like 1 is I'm letting myself down, or letting someone down with this. Okay, so this was Apple 1.6. I'm breaking up the edge. I'm losing that very sharp anti-alias look. And I'm starting to feel a bit more natural, a bit more organic, and even the highlights, as you see, start slowly blooming. All these sparkly stuff have kind of this slightly more natural softness to them, which I kind of like. So what else? Well, one other thing we're going to do, I would like to try see if I can find an element in the frame. All right, so let's see if we have a bit of contrast here. Okay, so this camera has very little chromatic aberration, but if you look closely at your image, you might be able to see that when I switch channel from the red here and the green, it's barely perceptible, but you get the feeling that the red channel is actually a bit, just a hint bigger. It's a hint. It's moving a hint toward the exterior. It's very, very light, and with some lenses, with some cameras, it might be stronger. But that's part of the fun. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to apply the same transformation to the red channel for my car only. This way, I will make sure that the car, whenever it goes close to the border frame, the channels get displayed the same way. So for that, you might be tempted to just do something like a transform mask, for example. Transform mask and just affect the red channel, and then put a value in here, and in scale, and let's say 0.001, for example. And what that would do is that effectively, let's try to make it stronger. Effectively here we would be creating chromatic aberration. As you see, it's working here. Of course here it's too strong. However, the default with that I found is that when you are doing that, you are not taking the alpha into account. The alpha itself is not getting modified by the node, as you can see when I deactivate the transform. And what that means is that while the green and blue channel will get properly merged over the plate, the red channel will actually start being merged additively. That means that you'll get these very, very glowy edges on your image. So to compensate for that, it's more proper to actually merge the red channel, or whichever channel you want to distort, to merge it with its own alpha. So what shape does that take? Well, that's quite easy. I'm going to split. So this is, again, that's my main car render. And when I merge it on top of the plate, let me try to make a bit more space here. There we go. I'm not leaving you enough space to see the image. So yes, what I'm going to do is instead I'm going to create a simple transform. Sometimes you might be interested in a God rays node instead, or even a lens distortion. Ideally you would actually want to have a lens distortion which is applied to the plate, to the CGI car per channel. That would be the best way to do it. However, 95% of the time it's very convenient and very easy to just do it like I'm doing right now. So here what I'm going to do is I'm going to merge again this transformed image over the plate. However, what I'm going to do now is that from that transformed merge, and I'm going to scale up the car so we can check what's happening. There we go. So that's first version, second version. Obviously that's not a chroma, but at this point it's a mistake, but I want to show you how it works. And now what I'm going to do is that I'm going to just copy the red channel from the transformed merge to red and red. Yep, red to this channel. So now you see I'm actually modifying the red channel, and only the red channel, and the merge is actually correct. It's happening properly. Now what that means is that when I start actually putting reasonable values in my chromatic aberration, usually it's very, very, very light. Right, so we barely see it, but it's there, and I'm happy that it's there. Some shots will, it's very, very, very light. But again, this lens is quite good. We don't have much chromatic aberration. For some shots, when you have like wide lenses or old lenses from the 70s or 80s, you can get these beautiful, beautiful chroma abs, and that technique allows you to be very, very clean. So I recommend using this. Now, a few more things we can do. So looking at the plate, I can say that there is a fair amount of overall bloom and softness in the image. It's not extremely visible, but it is. I kind of feel it in some areas, and I kind of feel that we've got these bright highlights who are like slightly irradiating the film back. So I'm going to emulate this very, very simply. No fuss. I'm just going to go. Let's see. I should be good if I go after the black levels. Actually, I'm going to create a blur node, and I'm gonna leave it to blur everything. And I'm going to start entering values which are extremely faint. So I'm going to blur at 12 pixels, for example. All right, 12 is already quite big. But the key is, in the mix, I'm going to put very, very, very small values. All right, so that's already probably too strong. I might have to lower the highlights later. But the advantage is that already I have the feeling that this has some kind of an interaction with the rest of the plate, which I actually like that we get these kind of things. And because usually one blur is a bit too simple, I'm going to try the second one, which is going to be bigger, and it's going to be also much fainter. Let's see 2. What is that? Okay, it's very subtle. Also, a lot of the things I'm doing now, I might tweak later. I might come back at it later because as I comp, my eyes change, my just opinion change on some of the things I do, and it's perfectly natural. It's perfectly okay. It might feel like you are running circles, but actually it's just a matter of trying out different things and understanding how the plate works and how the shot, what the limits of the shots are, basically. So. What else can we do? Yep. All right. So one thing I noticed is that actually I think my reflection from the screen right side of the car is a bit too low still. We've got such a strong reflection from the stones there. I would expect the car to be a bit brighter than this. So I'm going to increase again that specular from the environment. And let's see how. All right, let's go to stops. All right, let's go crazy. Let's go with 2 stops first. Yeah, 2 stops make it start to glow. 1, oops, sorry. 1 might be okay, actually. All right. Okay, yeah, it might be a bit too saturated, but let's leave it here for now. All right, let's continue. So one of the things I would like to do also is that if I observe, I'm still not satisfied with the grade of my roof here. I think it's not sitting very well with the rest of the sky, which is supposed to reflect. So I'm going to now grade, but I don't want to grade the whole image, the whole car altogether. What I want to grade is only that part. So for that, a simple technique, for example, is to use the P world. So the P world, or the P in the case of Charles, I think the path was named P, which you can find here, it's a position pass. What this means is that the colors which are mapped onto this car correspond to the coordinates in the scene of your pixel, the pixel, the part of the car which the pixel represents. So for example, if I were to select this broad area, which is the rear view mirror of the car, these values, 14, 8.5, 244, these values are the values in X, Y, and Z respectively of this mirror. For us, it's quite convenient. We can do many things with this kind of passes. And I'm going to show you a couple of things that we can do with it. So the first thing I'm checking is I want to sample the car to just double check that the P pass is already unpremulted. If it were premulted, you would have these values 13, 6, 2, 52. You would have them slowly fading in the anti-aliasing towards black, and that would cause some issues in whichever node we use later, because these nodes would believe that the anti-aliasing corresponds to another position of the car. What we want is these values to be consistent across the whole thing and just fall to black in one pixel. So there are many different ways to use these passes. I'm going to show you a couple. One of them, for example, would be to just grade them. So I know that I want to select the top of the car. So top of the car, that's the y-axis. So y-axis, X, Y, Z. The y-axis is the green channel. So I'm going to shuffle the green channel here from the P layer. And you see it's been already named P XYZ by Charles. This in general, by the way, is not ideal. You would preferably want to have your channels in the P passes called red, green, blue, as always. Nuke tends to go a bit crazy sometimes if you don't name things the way he likes. All right, and now I'm going to just grade this node, and I'm going to try to go and select only the values that interest me. So let me go back again. All right, so we have the green channel, and I say that my top part should be 18. There we go, and my low part should be, well, let's say we start around the middle of the car here, so 5.7. And did I select the wrong values? It's very possible that I selected the wrong values. All right, 10. Right, so at this stage you are authorized to wonder what I'm doing, because I'm probably having a small error here. So let me a second. Yep, and that's good. All right, please indulge me. I had a very long week. It might sometimes take a bit longer for me to get my nodes sorted out. All right, so now I select this. Ideally, you want to have a smooth ramp. For example, if it's a linear selection like this, you tend to have very harsh edges. So it's good to lower a bit the gamma, for example, and just be able to select these areas. And now, same as before, I will just grade my node a bit. A word about the unpremult. I would say as long as your mask input is unpremulted, and as long as your modification is only a multiply, you can probably do it with or without unpremult. However, because it's always very easy to change this when you set up a color correct, it's easy later to come back and change a value like the offset or the contrast or something. It's always good to actually, or more importantly, the gamma. It's always good to actually prepare yourself, like future-proof yourself, to make sure that you are not going to destroy anything. So yeah, in my case, I think my car is a bit too green. I'm gonna check a bit. Let's see if I can push it out. I know many people like to oversaturate the image to check their values. I personally am not a huge fan, because it tends to muddy a bit the things. If you have a very subtle difference between two colors which are fairly close, sometimes you will not actually get much closer by oversaturating the image. However, in this case, I'm relatively confident that I'm a bit too green. So let's say I'm applying the grade here through the alpha. If I were to put a CD value in the offset, I see that, yeah, everything is okay. I'm pushing the values and I see that I don't have extra weird edges or halation. So I know that my pre-melt and pre-melt workflow for now is correct. And I'm going to just split it out and to increase a bit the blue, right? And maybe reduce a bit the green. It's a bit too much. Right. All right, so let's say, okay, let's say this range I'm happy with. I have kind of an echo of some of the values of blues here and still have some brightness from this midsection in the horizon. So let's say I'm going to be happy with this. All right. Okay, so my car is there. Most likely at some point we need to darken a bit this part. So one silly thing which overall helps again with the integration, which you can try. It's not always the best technique, but you can definitely try, is to use light traps. Light traps can be really efficient. They can also be overused and overpowered. I see a lot of comp where the light trap is really too strong and it makes the image looks overprocessed and too soft. So not the best not to use, not the best technique, but it's a very useful tool at times. And if used tastefully, it's really a useful one. You can really go for quite far with it. So personally, I like doing the light traps at almost the very latest stage of my CGI comp. Definitely after the add. The reason for the black level. The reason for that is I'm going to use the plate as a source for my light trap, and I'm going to use it as close in the script as I can to the car. So what that means is this. I'm going to use the alpha of the car to punch a hole. Let's create a node up here and call it plate, just so that I can remember it. There we go. Whoop. All right. I'm going to punch a hole in that plate with the car. I know a lot of people liked using a stencil or mask, like a merge node in stencil or mask mode to punch holes in objects. It's up to preferences. Personally, I like multiply because I know that whenever I use a multiply like this with an input, it's because I'm doing a matte. I'm removing an object. Also, by default, it's already removing all the channels. So for me, it's a very simple and easy way to organize myself and know exactly what's happening in my script. When I multiply like this, it's a mask. Now, I'm going to create a succession of blurs, which will be the kind of the core of the light trap. So the first one will be very mild. We're just gonna see, we're gonna blur a bit the plate and it's gonna start going inside of the element. I'm gonna copy paste. And then I'm going to start increasing the values of the size, but decreasing the values of the mix. So again, these things you can interface. You can do with glue. You can do simpler with just 1 or 2 blurs. But yeah, I like the control. It allows you to go very in depth and at any point say, oh, you know what, I'm a bit too sharp in that area. Then you can reduce the values at any point. For example, if I said, oh, I think this blur is a bit too blurred, well, you could reduce it and you would retrieve some sharpness there. So it's very handy. I like having this kind of control over my image because you never know what kind of notes you're going to receive. So let's continue. Up, and I'm going to continue reducing the mix. And I'm going to do it one last time. And this time it's going to be very big. And I'm going to do very light. So you see now it's very soft. It has a very rom-com look, and that's fine. Everyone loves rom-coms. and I'm going to merge this. So the idea here is that I have an alpha. Yep, I have an alpha here from the plate, and we are blurring it. So when we add it to our element, and here I'm going to do a voluntary mistake. Look, I merge it over my element, and as you can see, it's already, well, grabbing some values from all sides of the plate. Now, of course, this is not correct, because if I merge it, there we go, I have something ugly. So what I need to do is, I only want to affect the color of my object. I don't want to affect the alpha. So I'm going to premult again, and premult. And now, I'm still touching the alpha here. Why? Because my merge, by default, is still affecting the output alpha. If I deactivate this, let's see the alpha. That's the alpha with the current merge. If I deactivate the alpha, look, my alpha is identical to what it was before. Yeah. And now, when I premult, values outside of the car are gone. Now, this is still, of course, way too strong. Let's see if we can reduce it to a level where it's a bit more reasonable. And most likely, it's going to be something really small. My rule is always, all right, see how we can still see this light trap way too strong. My rule is always take a value that you think is not too bad, and for me that's starting to be not too bad, and reduce it almost by half. There you go. And now when I compare, see how these blacks, these deep blacks are starting to break up, and we've got some values wrapping around the car, and that's kind of interesting to me because that will breathe, that will live with the plate. As we go in the shadows, the car will get less wrap. When we go in the bright areas, it will get a bit more wrap. So all of that will allow the car to feel like it's breathing with the element, which is something which is great because it helps us so much with integration. Now, one more thing I might want to do is actually I could probably make a general blur on top. Because the thing is that these values in the middle are not affected that much. So what I'm going to do here is actually theoretically a big no-no, but you know, I'm showing stuff. So here goes nothing. Let's try. All right, so I'm going to blur it, and this one I'm going to keep. I'm not actually going to remove the car from the plate. I'm just going to do something quite violent and blur it a lot. And this would be for very, very, very broad values. We want to have the sense that, again, the plate can flare itself and the car will kind of inherit some of that. But because it's such a strong effect, we will want it to be very light. So same, if I go to, for example, 0.5, most likely here it will look very washed out. There we go. But let's reduce this to an acceptable value. That's still too strong. See, 0.1, 10% is way too strong. So I can continue reducing it. And let's say, right, let's say I'm happy with, how about this? Get a feeling for it. I see this thing too strong. Oop. Right. Okay, so this I can live with, I think. It's probably still gonna introduce some variations, but it's probably acceptable. So let's try to leave it as this. All right, let's carry on with a couple more things. All of this is a setup of finer integration of the car in the plate. We will have time later to come back to elements, to tweak the colors, tweak at any point, any of the setup, the glows, the colors. What we want at this point is to set up all the different knobs so that if we have a note coming from the client, or just if we have fresher eyes in the morning, we can straight away jump into it and be satisfied with having all the setup already prepared for all these tiny changes.